Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout-out to...
Something else.
Something else, Daddy.
This is Mantell, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
Welcome to episode number 285 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we take a look at Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling from April, whatever day this is, April 13th, 1985. My name is Arya, and joining me as always is the Stony Montana to my Rocky Montana. It's Trae. Trae, how the hell you doing today?
I was going to suggest which Montana for an episode title if we didn't have a better one.
I did not have a title in mind, so which Montana, unless we come up with something better. Which Montana sounds good. Did you know who they are?
No, who are they?
They're the Jeffers, Mac and Jim Jeffers from Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett Jobber fame.
Okay.
The Mod Squad. Yeah.
Okay, the Mod Squad.
Yeah. Very, very, whatever tag team. See, if we would have been watching WCW Saturday Night, which just began last week, we at some point would have run into the Jeffers. But
speaking of obscure wrestlers.
Speaking of obscure wrestlers,
I have a gimmick that I thought I'd do, and I've been meaning to do it. So I thought I'd do it while we did the show tonight. So if you're a denizen of wrestling Twitter, you may have seen people talking about the greatest wrestler ever, and people are ranking their 100 greatest wrestlers. And I hate doing shit like that. I hate ranking stuff.
Yep.
Yep. So
I tried to get you to do I think it was top 50 tag teams when we count them down one at a time for an entire year. And you're like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, maybe we'll do it. Because what I said, okay, I will do a preference revealer thing if somebody can provide me a list of every wrestler that I ever enjoyed. And the great Elliott Wrestling on Twitter, so I can't do that, but give me the list of all of the nominees for greatest wrestler ever, and I went through it and took out everybody that didn't meet the criteria. And I have two criteria. Okay, I can distinctly remember having seen this person wrestle, and I liked some aspect of them. And I still have a list of about 617 wrestlers. So I don't know how long this is going to take. We'll see how far we get tonight. Some of them are fairly, not that difficult, but you get a hard one. Like here I am, Scott Hall or Genichiro Tenryu. Like that's difficult.
Now, why does it have to be either? Why can't it be both?
Because it's a preference revealer. You've got to pick one or the other.
I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest. My familiarity with Tenryu is quite limited, so for that, I'd go with Scott Hall. Yeah. But that's just me.
See, I love Scott Hall, but Tenryu is fucking great.
I just love the idea that you were like, someone make me a list of all the wrestlers that I like. Like, really?
Yeah,
how that works.
Was. Yeah, I didn't have high hopes. For okay, I gotta if it's the greatest wrestler ever and it's my preference, I gotta go with Tenryu. Then okay, Combat Toyota or Pentagon Jr. Well, I'll go Pentagon Jr. Negro Navarro or Pac. Like that's Like, they're both really fucking great for different reasons.
For me, I'd say Pac,
Yeah.
but that's just me.
Pat. Ole Anderson or Naomichi Marufuji? Like, how the fuck? Like, how?
Who makes it? Who came up with Naomichi Marufuji or Ole Anderson? Like that's quite the pick 'em
Well,
right there.
that's the way it works. You give it a list, and it gives, I don't know how many or what percentage of them, but it gives them to you two at a time, and you pick your preference, and then it calculates, it ranks them according to your preference.
Okay then. Well, we have that to look forward to tonight. Plus, it is the week of WrestleMania. Apparently there's a pro wrestling show that people are fond of coming up this weekend. I am not going to be watching it, and from what I understand, Trey also will not be watching it. Is that an accurate representation?
It is accurate. And you know who else was not fond of WrestleMania on this show this week? Bill Watts.
A different WrestleMania, but yes. But anyway, the reason why I bring that up is because I figured this week I would ask you some obscure WrestleMania trivia.
Okay.
And I have one question here. I don't know why I didn't think of any more than one, but hey, I figured one was enough. So are you ready? If you got your brain cap on right now.
I sure do.
Okay. So at WrestleMania 15, The Undertaker beat the Big Boss Man in a Hell in a Cell match. After the match, The Undertaker and the Brood hung the Boss Man from the cell. This show happened on March 28th, 1999. How many days later did Boss Man have his next match?
Was it one?
Nope, 2.
Oh.
2 days after being hung to death,
Okay.
he taped a match for Sunday Night Heat where he defeated Draws. And this might be one of those who's the bigger jobber, Christian or Lance Storm questions, because after being hung to death on Sunday, on Tuesday, Draws lost to this man who got killed to death in 90 seconds.
Or Draws.
Yes. Turns out 1999 was not a good year for Darren Drozdov.
JBL or Shima?
JBL or Shima?
Yes.
I feel I've never gone to a TV show and chanted "Fire Shima," so I'd probably go with Shima there.
I gotta go with Shima. Randy Savage or Masato Yoshino? I love these weird matchups.
I think for an overall body of work, I'd have to go with the Macho Man.
Togi Makabe or Orange Cassidy?
What a bizarrely unique question here.
It's so weird, and it's hard to think about, because like everybody knows Makabe as one of the dads, and I remember when he was like crazy King Kong motherfucker.
See, when Cody couldn't have a last name, I was saying he should have been Togi's little brother and have been Cody Makabe.
Oh, would have been tremendous. It's too bad he didn't do that.
Yes. Well, speaking of tremendous, I have a tremendous idea to do some what the hell am I going to call it? Oh my God! Now I'm fuck it. While I'm trying to work everything in my brain, this is what happens when you write a joke on Thursday and expect it to be fresh in your head come Monday when you finally tell the guy you want to either pop or make grown. So while Arya's trying to remember shit, let's go to the intro of Mid-South Wrestling this week. It's a longer intro than usual because Bill Watts has something to say.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the exciting Mid-South Wrestling Television Network. I'm your host, Boyd Pierce, and we have the exciting action. You'll see Brickhouse Brown in the ring against Ed Carr Thomas. Also, we move into the third round of the Mid-South Television title tournament, Private Terry Daniels versus Dr. Death Steve Williams. The Rock and Roll Express is here. They'll be in against the team of the Rugged Barbarian and his partner, Jake the Snake Roberts. Steve Casey from Manchester, England returns. Also, we'll see the new team of General Eddie Gilbert and his team partner, 280-pound, who called himself the Nightmare. Kamala, the Ugandan warrior, here, along with General Skandar Akbar, and we'll see the debut on Mid-South of Dirty Dutch Mantell. A lot of exciting action. To tell you about it, the president of Mid-South Sports, Bill Watts. Bill?
Boy, this should be another great hour, and we want to thank you again for inviting us into your homes. First, I want to make a slight commentary. You know, New York and Titan Sports and WrestleMania and everything that's been going on, they've been making a lot of allegations. They attribute, Vince McMahon has self-attributed the fact that he has caused a new renaissance or rising in wrestling. I want to tell you something. Wrestling's been on a roll since 1970, and everybody in Mid-South knows it because they've made it happen here, and we really appreciate that. He's taken a lot of credit for things that don't happen, but I want to say one thing also. There's athletics and there's showbiz. You know, Muhammad Ali was a great fighter. He was a crowd pleaser. He was so great that he could show off and still knock you out or whip you. A lot of great wrestlers are like that. That's exciting. But when you take an actor and make him an instant wrestler, that's baloney. And I want to say another thing. Even Mean Gene Okerlund has been in the ring in a main event in Minneapolis. I think when ring announcers can get in the ring, that's baloney too. That's why we'll never feature that in Mid-South. We have athletes in Mid-South that are two-time All-Americans, like our first bout here, Edgar Thomas. They start just like everybody else from the bottom up. We play no favorites. And when you're talking about showbiz and stars hanging around, I was talking to Dusty Rhodes on the phone the other day, and Dusty said, you know, Bill, remember when we were walking tall in Georgia, how the people hung around? And I can remember back in the middle 70s and right on up to now, Dusty Rhodes, when he was in New York, was with Bette Midler, John Belushi on stage when John was alive. He goes all the time to Willie Nelson concerts, Boxcar Willie. I know Jerry Clower has come right here on Mid-South. Jerry Lee Lewis used to go to the matches in Atlanta. A good friend of mine, Jeff McKay, who stars on Magnum P.I., he comes around a lot. The Gap Band, who live in Tulsa, come to the matches in Tulsa. ZZ Top and Dusty Hill are big fans in Houston. So I want to say one thing. Stars have been around wrestling for years because they wanted to be and the wrestlers wanted to be. It wasn't where somebody paid them to hang around. So I want to say one thing. We're going to stay right with what makes wrestling solid and a sport. Mid-South Wrestling. Let's go to the ring for the first exciting bout.
So, Bill Watts has a hair up his ass this week.
Boy, does he.
If we didn't already have a great episode title, this week's episode could have been Bill Watts has a hair up his ass. Because this is not the last complaint that he makes during this show. Shockingly enough, Bill Watts has shit to say.
That was an impressive tirade.
Yeah. So, speaking of impressive tirades, I think I'm going to save my my tirade for later on in the show, actually at the end of the episode. But the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. The way it is right now, this thing's going into the Something Else Hall of This Sucks at the end of the tournament.
Yes, because you noticed something that I didn't. So explain it to the audience.
Well, I noticed it later in the show. And so I want to, because I'll be honest, I didn't pick up on it because they flashed the bracket up and took it down so quickly. I wasn't really paying attention to it. I just knew they told us that we had a first round match this week, the third round of the tournament, you know, with Terry Daniels and Dr. Death. And I knew that was still in the bracket. So I'm like, okay. So nothing was out of whack in my brain at this point. We'll get to that though later on. And Ed Carr, who did get shouted out during the WrestleMania 1 conversation, he's going to take on Brickhouse Brown. It would have been hilarious if, much like calling Vince McMahon Jr. Back in the 70s, if they would have been calling him, whatchamacallit, if they would have been calling it WrestleMania 1, even though it wasn't WrestleMania 1 at the time. It's like calling it World War 1 back in the 1910s. It wasn't World War 1 until we had World War 2.
It was called the Great War.
Yes.
And it was a great war. It just wasn't the greatest war.
That was between Edge and Randy Orton.
Can I just say, this is completely unrelated. World War I is like the stupidest, most pointless waste of life in human history. Like, it was about It was
Go ahead.
about nothing. It was about nothing, and it accomplished nothing good.
The funny thing is, somebody asked once, I think it was on a TV show, what was World War One even about? And nobody knew the answer. And I'll be honest, I don't even really know what the answer is.
Because it's so fucking stupid and convoluted that you gotta have a whole. You gotta have a okay. There was an inciting incident that people know about a guy missing an assassination and then going for a sandwich and shooting an Austrian archduke. But you've got to explain like the last century of fucking European history for it to start to make a little bit of sense. And it's fucking stupid. World War One, I gotta say, I am not a fan of World War One. It was a very, like not as like a historical topic. It's great. It's great for that. I love to read about it and learn about it, but it's like I don't think it. Not a fan of it as a war. It was not a good war.
World War One would be in the something else hall of this suck if we were to put wars, into the hall.
It's
so. So I know this is before your fandom, but when WCW did World War III, I was pissed off that the second year it wasn't called World War IV.
It should have been. It really should have been. I agree.
Yes. But this is what goes through your head when you're 11. It's like, why isn't this World War IV? We already had World War III. It's like when China was the ninth wonder of the world, we already had an eighth wonder of the world. China wasn't the new eighth wonder of the world. She was the ninth.
I really appreciated that.
She was the ninth wonder of the world?
Yeah, that it acknowledged that Andre the Giant was the eighth wonder of the world.
Which is funny because, like, Vince and the WWF in general did not acknowledge history really until they were the only company left. But
Yeah.
But no, Andre was still forever the eighth wonder of the world, and thus China's number 9. And I also like that, like, unlike today, and this, I don't want to alarm you, but Jim Ross is a better announcer than Michael Cole. Michael Cole would tell, if this was today, Michael Cole would tell you on every single episode of Raw why China is the ninth wonder of the world and that Andre's the eighth. Instead, like I was a kid and I understood that. I did not need it to be drilled into my head why China's number 9. And keep in mind, when I was a kid, I didn't even really know what the 7 wonders of the world were. I just knew there were 7 wonders of the world and that Andre was 8th.
On that subject, Mike Jackson or Edge?
How is that on that subject?
It's not. It's not.
I would
That's the joke.
with all the love and respect in the world to our Alabama junior heavyweight champion, I would go with the rated R superstar.
I'm gonna go with Mike Jackson.
Good. So I was thinking about this just now, listening to Watts talk about John Belushi. Do you remember the story in Hogan's book about how he drank John Belushi under the table at WrestleMania 2?
Vaguely.
John Belushi, who's been dead since like 1981, was drinking with Hogan at WrestleMania 2 in 1986.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we're like 20 minutes into the show, let's talk about the first match on the show. It's Ed Carr, Boo Thomas with Dr. S.C. Williams versus Brickhouse Brown. Trey, is there a black person here?
All of them. Well, Butch Reed's not here.
So Doc apparently said some personal remarks to Brickhouse. They never told us what those remarks are, but he said some personal remarks to Brickhouse.
Brickhouse has music now, and he may or may not have been playing it on his own boombox, but the mixing on my thing was weird, so I couldn't really tell what was going on.
Yes, that happened to me too. I was going to ask you about that too. Like when the music stopped, it kind of went all glitchy for a second.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ed Carr is a very ugly man, and he is not a very good professional wrestler. admittedly, I think this is like saying early in his career makes it sound like he had a career. Of the not very many matches he had, these are his first matches. Let's say that. And he tripped taking an Irish whip and went head first into the middle turnbuckle. He took a drop kick and somehow ended up with his head under the ropes and on the other side of the top rope. That took skill.
Yeah.
Doc tried to interfere, but he failed at it. And Brickhouse realized that doing a headbutt to the back of the head was a little too contrived, so he did a diving headbutt to the front of the head this week to pick up the win. Doc tried to interrupt afterwards, but Brickhouse drop kicked him out of the ring. Jim Duggan came out and gave him the stamp of approval. In case you weren't sure he was a babyface, Jim Duggan is here to say, hey, this guy's all right.
And Doc only backed off because he had a match immediately after and didn't want to injure himself right before such an important match. Especially since he already has an arm fracture.
Does he still have it? I honestly didn't even notice at this point.
Yeah, he had the gimmick on his arm and they mentioned it. Okay. Okay, you'll appreciate this one. Chris Harris or Terry Taylor?
Wow. Wildcat Chris Harris or terrific Terry Taylor, who's a big stooge of D-Gens, etc. I know we rip on Terrence Taylor, and Chris Harris. Chris Harris was good, but I'd go with the Red Rooster here.
I think you're probably right.
The tailor-made man, if you will.
Indeed.
It's funny, every time I see Brickhouse Brown and his dropkick, I keep thinking about Mick Foley in his book, basically saying that Brickhouse would stiff people with that dropkick.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Yeah. Dr. Death Steve Williams versus Private Terry Daniels in the third round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. The way this tournament is going, I was figuring that Terry Daniels would win via ref stoppage. But did you notice Watts was bitching about Eddie Mansfield during this match?
I didn't catch that when you said something about that.
He didn't say Eddie Mansfield's name, but he started talking about how people on John Stossel try to become stars by talking about the business. And it's like, who else could he be talking about kind of thing? It's like the only notable things that came out of that segment were Eddie Mansfield bladed himself and David Schultz smacked the shit out of him. And Watts was not putting down David Schultz for smacking the shit out of John Stossel.
I bet Watts loved that.
I bet he did. I bet Bill Watts jerked off to David Schultz slapping John Stossel. And I said that in the past tense. I bet Bill Watts pulls it up on YouTube to this day and jerks off to that, on a weekly basis. Oh, God. Apparently, Ric Flair is coming in at some point. And it led to another rant about how there's 3 world champions. The Mid-South is not affiliated with any major company. However, out of 3 world champions, they acknowledge one of them. And that's Ric Flair, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. And he's going to be coming into the territory here shortly. And so we know Flair's the NWA champion, and we know Hogan's the WWF champion. Do you know who the AWA champion is at this time?
April 85.
And I guess I better look it up to confirm who I think it is before I tell you the wrong thing. But
is it Rick Martel?
That's who I think it is. So I got to go and double check that here.
Because I think Jumbo won it in 84 and Martel won it from Jumbo.
Doesn't Hanson get the belt at some point around here? Actually, no. Rick Martel is the champion. He's been champion since 2 years to the day of my brother's birthday, May 13th, 1984. And he holds it until Stan Hansen beats him at the end of December. Then he never comes back to lose the belt. and Nick Bockwinkel is randomly declared the champion in June of '86.
And Stan Hansen famously ran over what did the one they called the inmate belt? Ran over it with a truck.
Yes. Let's see here. I was going to say, I think Rick Martel may have one of the longest title reigns, but that's not true. Vern Gagne held it for 7 years, and then Bockwinkel held it for 5 years. I know that's what they did back in the day, but can you imagine, like, modern day, if like there was a 7-year title reign immediately followed by a 5-year title reign?
Yeah. By the way, I can't remember where exactly I heard this, but I remember hearing at some point that the deal with Watts being allowed to use the NWA champion without being a member of the NWA, it was a little deal that they had to, like, so they could point and tell the federal government that, look, we're not a monopoly. We have a non-member that we let book our world champion.
Well, I mean, they had been, I don't know if suit is the right word, but they had been taken to court over monopolistic tactics back in the 50s. So,
yes.
Yeah. And by the way, found guilty of monopolistic tactics. So there you go. By the way, Doc won with a stampede, the first finish in the tournament.
Yeah, he fucking drove him down with that shit. He ate poor Private Terry Nelson for lunch. Right, like he fought hard. It was a semi-competitive squash match, but he beat him flat.
He was beaten so flat he apparently changed his name from Terry Daniels to Terry Nelson.
Oh, did I? My bad. I think I was mixing him up with our friend Boris Serkov, Private Jim Nelson.
If it helps, I was yesterday when tomorrow when D'Lo Brown and Apollo win the NWA tag titles. I say it's D'Lo Brown and Abyss, which could be an interesting tag team.
That would be a great tag team.
Yep. Tag team champions, the Rock and Roll Express, back on TV for it feels like the first time in a month, if not more, versus Jake the Snake Roberts and the Ball Bearing. Watts was not having a good week. In addition to ranting and raving about everything that has nothing to do with his own show this week, he calls the tag team champions at one point Robert Morton and Ricky Gibson.
Well, there is a Ricky Gibson in wrestling that will maybe retired at this point.
I am positive there is a Robert Morton out there somewhere. There has to be.
Yeah.
Now, sadly, for some reason, the Barbarian did not do frog jumps around the ring this week. I was very disappointed at him for that.
Oh.
Yeah. And apparently, I don't know if this was on the 2020 episode, because I'll be honest, I haven't watched that thing in a while. But somebody must have told Watts about the old adage that these guys know how to fall, because he went on a rant about that and how, whatever, but we can't defeat gravity. It still hurts when you fall down. Like, okay, Bill.
Low-key or Masanobu Fuchi?
I really know nothing about Masanobu Fuchi, so I'd have to go with Cabal there.
I just want people to understand the kind of weird ones that I get hung up on.
Ricky, I actually wrote nothing about this match until the finish. Ricky got hung in the ropes, and the Dirty White Boys ran down to yank on him, which may have been the disqualification. Jim Duggan ran down for the save and ended up in the full Nelson by the Barbarian. Jake was beating up Steve Casey. I thought it was Bill Dundee because I just saw a guy with black hair and purple tights. And I'm like, oh, it's Bill Dundee. And I was like, oh, nope, he's too tall to be Bill Dundee. And I don't know what happened to the Dirty White Boys, but they disappeared. And Jake and the Ball Bearing beat the shit out of 4 heels. And yeah, they were like the Tim Horners and Steve Casey's of the world. But there's also Jim Duggan and the Rocks and Rolls Expresses in there. So they actually beat up 5 guys here.
Yeah, Jake DDT'd Ricky and Jim Duggan.
Yeah. So a 5-on-2 advantage baby faces and the two heels came out victorious.
Yeah.
Even though come on, everyone wants to beat up Tim Horner.
Yeah, who doesn't?
I wasn't disappointed because I really did think he was going to be able to do it. But when he put Duggan in the full Nelson, I was looking to see if he could hold him up there. And John Nord is a very strong man. He cannot hold up a 280-pound man in the hanging full Nelson move.
No.
Oh my God. So I put up on YouTube, I created the 54-minute video of all of Shawn Michaels Mid-South matches, and one of them was against the ball bearing. Well, I think they angled out of it, but he was in the ring with the ball bearing. And somebody commented saying that they never liked Shawn Michaels. And, hey, every reason you've ever heard it, somebody doesn't like Shawn Michaels. And I replied to him, I'm like, well, if it helps you at all, he does lose every single match on this video. Oh, God.
I'm glad you were there to help them.
Yes. All right. So Jacko Victory versus Steve Casey. Yes, the same. Oh, did you have anything to say about the tag match? I didn't stop and let you talk.
I was pretty good while it lasted. They went into the wonky finish. One of the greatest tag teams of all time against Jake Roberts and a big strong fucker. Winning formula.
Yeah, they were going to say one of the greatest tag teams of all time against the Rock and Roll Express. All right. So Steve Casey was just out here fighting with the ball bearing and Jake the Snake Roberts, walked to the back, put his coat on to walk right back out and take on Jack Victory. Now, this is where my bullshit meter started peaking. Because during this match, we're told that next week, in the fourth round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000, Steve Casey would be taking on Jake Roberts. And I'm like, hold on, time out. How can we already be on to Steve Casey's second match? Wasn't Jake Roberts supposed to wrestle somebody in the round of 9? And I pull up my bracket, the bracket that I screenshotted last week and threw up on the YouTube page. And yes, Jake Roberts is supposed to wrestle Brad Armstrong. And I'm like, what the hell? Why are we skipping a match? Like, is Brad Armstrong out of the tournament? Did he get eliminated via bye and we just never got bothered to told about it? And then I rewound to the start of the tape, to the start of the video file. And I went and found the 2.5 seconds that they aired the bracket this week. And it is a completely different bracket. Like, first of all, it's a whole lot less confusing. It was like, remember last week's bracket? It was absurd. Like, who the hell put this on television? Kind of absurd. So somebody realized that looked fucking ridiculous and decided to rework it. So previously, Brad Armstrong was supposed to wrestle Jake Roberts, and somehow they were linked to Steve Casey versus Chris Adams and Dr. Death versus Jake Roberts. So the bracket has completely changed now. So the first round is Timmy Horner versus Tommy Pritchard, and Tommy Pritchard won that, and he'll move on to the second round to take on Jim Duggan, who got a bye into the second round. And the winner of that match will take on the winner of the first round match between Terry Daniels and Dr. Death, which we saw was Dr. Death. So the winner of Duggan and Tom Pritchard will take on Dr. Death in the semifinals of the tournament. That is the top half of the bracket. Now, you're like, okay, there's 4 people left because it's a 9-man tournament. We still have 9 people. So you're like, okay, so it must be, Steve Casey versus Chris Adams, which we saw last week, and then Jake Robertson versus Brad Armstrong, and the winners of those 2 matches will wrestle in the other semifinal. No. Also, remember how Jim Duggan was the number 1 seed and Chris Adams was the number 2 seed? Ignore that seeding is a real thing, because Chris Adams versus Steve Casey is a first-round match. The winner, of course, being Steve Casey. Steve Casey goes on to the second round to wrestle Jake the Snake Roberts. The winner of that match goes into the third round, the semifinals, to take on Brad Armstrong, who the tournament has been disproportionately changed to be biased towards because Brad Armstrong, who's neither the 1 nor 2 seed, has been given a bye into the semifinals.
Maybe Bullet Bob Armstrong is also totally not the commissioner of Mid-South Wrestling.
I was going to say, maybe Grizzly Smith is not really the matchmaker.
Maybe.
Doesn't it make sense, by the way, that Grizzly Smith will be the one to fucking come up with something so absurd?
It's the worst thing Grizzly Smith has ever done.
Yes. I'd like to believe that, like, the real story, because I mean, we didn't see Brad last week, I don't think, and Brad's out on this week's show. I imagine what happened was that Brad wasn't available for this taping. And, like, they announced it for the tournament, and they had to rework it a bit for some reason. They couldn't just push off a match or two long enough to be able to go, okay, this is that match that we told you about.
It's probably the case.
Yeah. So, yeah, the tournament now makes more sense, at least bracket-wise, but also makes a lot less sense because how the hell did Brad Armstrong, skip several rounds in the meanwhile?
Yeah, you got me.
Using Mid-South conversation, he's got a bye into the 7th round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000.
That's so stupid.
I don't think that's fair to everybody else, but oh well.
Yeah.
Where the hell was I after this? Jacko Victory versus Steve Casey. Steve Casey won with a surfboard.
That was
Anything
the whole
else?
match. No, it was a 2 minutes 45 seconds. Another showcase win for Steve Casey, one of many S Caseys who are about this week.
Yes. Why aren't the Caseys should wrestle the Montanas? So we go to our next match, which is the debuting General Eddie Gilbert and the Nightmare versus young Timmy Horner and Rocky Montana. And the best part about Rocky Montana is they put Rocky in quotations, so Rocky is not Rocky's real name. I love when they do that. Like, and like at least other times when they do it, it's like, okay, that's that person's nickname and it kind of makes sense. What part of Rocky Montana made you think we would call that is his nickname? Like, why would we call this man Rocky? Why is Mac Jeffers, or is it Jim Jeffers? 1 second. No, Mac Jeffers is Stoney. So Jim Jeffers is Rocky Montana. Who knows?
Well, maybe Rocky was the ninja name that he just got from his Japanese grandfather. Do you ever think of that?
Oh, there we go. I apologize. I did not mean to besmirch Rocky Montana like that.
Do you get the reference?
No, I don't.
The movie Three Ninjas.
I literally never. I don't think I literally ever watched it. If I did, I watched it once.
Okay, like I don't know if you watched it for the first time today, if it would be good, but I watched it I watched those movies when I was growing up, and I love them.
What about Three Ninjas High Noon on Mega Mountain?
I only watched that one once, and I never watched it again. I've watched the other three multiple times.
So we were wondering who the Nightmare was, and I think we set it on. It must be Ken Wayne. It's fucking Moondog Rex.
Oh, we were way off.
Yeah, we cannot get rid of these fucking Moondogs, can we?
We sure can't.
And Nightmare pinned Rocky after a pile driver. No idea why Eddie Gilbert is General Eddie Gilbert. I just assume this means we're going to have a feud with him and General Skandor Akbar over who the real general of Mid-South is.
Yeah, and which one does Private Terry Daniels have to take orders from?
That is a very good question. Maybe we should ask Sergeant Slaughter since, I assume he's a member of the Cobra Corps, so Sergeant Slaughter is his commanding officer. But, and actually, like, when we had General Eddie Gilbert, I had notes on here about, well, I guess this is why General Skandor Akbar wasn't out here with the ball bearing earlier, because you don't want to, you don't want to have too many generals on one show,
I think that Akbar stopped managing the Barbarian, and they just haven't told us.
I think he manages the Barbarian like every other appearance.
He hasn't managed in the last few appearances.
I thought he was out with him last time.
I don't think so.
I guess ultimately it doesn't matter. But anyway, General Skandor Akbar is out next because he's in the corner of Kamala as Kamala takes on Steve Brinson. So before the match gets going here, General Skandor Akbar has something to say.
Asked to take this time to make this statement. The events that has happened the past few weeks here in the Mid-South, with the unprovoked attack on Friday, and among other things created chiefly by young Terry Taylor, it is a consensus feeling of everybody that I was losing control. And all of you people I know love to egg it on. I can assure you that the demise of the general is not at hand, that I am still as powerful as ever, and a wealthy man with the worldwide resources that I have in my worldwide contacts. You simply take the next step. And I made a trip to the island of Haiti, and I took the Ugandan warrior Kamala with me. We all know there's good and evil in all of us, and I will leave it to you to be the judge of what transpired on the island of Haiti. All I can tell you now is that I'm the only living human being that has control of Kamala. There's 3 individuals in the Mid-South now that I will publicly warn. First of all, Terry Taylor, for creating this chaotic situation within my organization, for holding that North American title, which should be in the general stable. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, for what you did to Ted DiBiase, and for sticking your big bulbous bell pepper nose in mine and Terry Taylor's affair. Yes, you heard me. And third and last but not least, Brickhouse Brown. Brickhouse Brown. I have already eliminated your kind in the form of Hacksaw Reed and Iceman King Parsons completely out of the Mid-South. And I'm calling you the last of the Mohicans. I made a mistake. You are not a Mohican. You know what you are. You profess to be something that you are not. Let it be warned now, gentlemen. Kamala will be as dangerous as ever.
So General Skandor Akbar is running the black people out of Mid-South, except he's not actually saying that.
Yeah, you can't say that.
Oh, God. 1 second.
You can't do that.
You can't just say we're running the black people out. Especially since, they make they make the money for young William Watts here. But that's basically what he's saying, although he does a very poor job of saying what he's saying. And he warned Terry Taylor and Jim Duggan and Brickhouse Brown, and he was like, they ran Butch Reed. I'm like, they did not run Butch Reed out. Butch Reed is still here. And I look it up. No, Butch Reed is gone. Not for very long, but he's gone. He's in the AWA for like 2 months.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah. He's not a fan, though, of the AWA. He will be back very soon.
Probably a nice part of the year to get out of Louisiana and go to Minnesota.
The funny thing is, we actually have a trade, kind of, because we have Kevin Kelly here on this show in World Class, and he's here until the end of May, where he gets flipped back to the AWA, and we get Butch Reed back.
I'll take that deal.
Yes. We unfortunately have to deal with a lot of Kevin Kelly over the next 2 months, and the next 6-7 weeks, because he's on both shows back and forth constantly. Like, God damn it, Thor. But, when he leaves, he's gone. You know,
That's
because
a
we are
lot.
not doing the AWA podcast, no matter how much you beg me.
I'm not. No.
All right. So Kamala actually won this week. He ends the losing streak. He won with the big splash. He did try to get disqualified afterwards, but he's finally listening to Akbar. Akbar told him to not climb the ropes, and we went to commercial and just assumed that he did not climb the ropes and did not do the big splash to Steve Brinson.
So you got through to him eventually.
He must have been like, we only have so many jobbers, and every time you do this to the jobber, they're out of the territory. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Dirty Dutch Mantell versus Stony Montana. And this is, I'm like, why the fuck do we have two Montanas on this show? And this is when I looked it up. This is when I realized it was Mac and Jim Jeffers, because I'm like, why the fuck are we naming the same, and especially when the announcers aren't even it's not even weird to anybody. It's like, oh, we just have two people named Montana this week, and who cares?
Yeah, they didn't even acknowledge it.
Yes. This was, of course, the debut of Dutch Mantell here in Mid-South. He took off his T-shirt to reveal his sweater. Manscaping is so not a thing in 1985.
No, yeah, bad times.
So, what the fuck was Bill on about in this match? Was there a mid-80s war that I forgot about?
Grenada?
I don't know. I think Dutch was in Vietnam, and fucking Bill Watts starts talking about negotiated government settlements. And he says that Dutch does not believe in negotiated government settlements, does that make him a babyface? I just kind of assume Dutch is a heel. I can't imagine Dutch Mantell as a babyface, but oh well. Geopolitical Bill Watts started ranting about politics and then said that he hates talking about politics. And I did not write this down word for word, but at one point he more or less said, people go to war so they can have a negotiated government settlement and collect unemployment. Where the hell did that come from? You didn't hear him say that?
What?
You didn't hear him say that?
Do we have a something else hall of what the fuck are you talking about?
Geopolitical Bill Watts, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I should have taken a fucking timestamp, but it was during the Dutch match. I mean, the match was 2 minutes, so we'd have to force you to listen to 2 minutes of a match. But yeah, what the hell got up Bill Watts' ass this week? Did Vince back out of Vietnam or something? I don't fucking know.
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, so they always tell us what we're going to watch next week, and they told us 3 times about Steve Casey versus Jake Roberts in the 4th round of the television tournament for a medal and $10,000. One of the plugs for next week's show was saying that next week, Joel Watts will be doing commentary.
Well, Joe Watts is very popular, you see.
Yes, I swear to fucking God they said that. And the director of marketing for Mid-South, Jim Ross, will also be on the show.
Yeah.
The director of marketing. JR has gone through some titles here on this show because he was once Jim Ross of ESPN Rodeo. And now he's the director of marketing for Mid-South Wrestling. Oh, God. You can't say Jim didn't pay his dues in this territory.
No, he literally did pretty much every job.
Yep. By the way, Dutch won with a gourd buster, and Bill almost missed it because he's busy complaining about how the style in New York isn't very tough, and you don't have a tough match that often. Unlike Mid-South here, where you have tough matches like Dirty Dutch Mantell versus Stony Montana.
Boy, Bill had never seen anything like a front suplex before.
I'm trying to think because, like, well, I guess when Arn was in, he was a jobber, so he wasn't doing it. So this may have been the first time we saw that in this territory. I'm trying to think, like,
Yeah.
when Tully was in, Tully was only in for like one or two TV tapings, so he may not have done the slingshot suplex, but who knows? All right, so that was Mid South. It was certainly a show.
It sure was.
Yeah. All right, okay, so before we go into World Class Championship Wrestling, last week on this very show, they told us that the main event of this week's World Class was going to be a six-man tag with the Freebirds returning to take on the Midnight Express and Rip Oliver. Now, Trae kind of spoiled it for me by saying that that match was not going to be happening. And I got to be honest, the way Trae was telling it to me, I was expecting it to be like Kelly Kiniski and Johnny Mantell in the main event somehow. But that's not what happened. Let's go to the intro of World Class with Bill Mercer.
Welcome to World Class Championship Wrestling from the world-famous Sportatorium here in Dallas, Texas. World Class Championship Wrestling seen around the world, from Israel to Japan, across the United States. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Mercer. Great to have you with us on this edition of World Class Championship Wrestling, and we've got a fantastic main event. The Fantastics, in fact, against the Midnight Express in that battle for the American Tag Team Championship. And you'll see Kevin Von Erich and Chris Adams, Hercules Hernandez and Sunshine, and many more of the world's greatest wrestlers right here on World Class Championship Wrestling. And we'll be back with our first event in just a moment.
So, hey, I approve of the replacement match.
Yeah. I did on paper. I did, yeah.
I will say I did not look up to see if they ever did that six-man tag because next week, well, I guess they could have happened next week, but they just didn't promote it at all because later on we find out next week it's Kevin versus Gino. So I guess we could have that six-man tag next week, but they didn't mention it. And you'd think that the Freebirds teaming for the first time in 6 months on the show would be a big enough deal to mention it.
Who knows?
Yeah. Remember when Rip Oliver did a Saturday night's main event against the Ultimate Warrior, and for whatever reason they didn't want him to be Rip Oliver, so he was the Super Ninja?
I don't remember that. Wow.
Yeah, it was the whatchamacallit, the Saturday night's main event Thanksgiving '88 weekend. And but yeah, they never do a six-man tag, at least with those six principals, at least according to Cage Match.
That is a travesty.
Yes, it is a bit of a tragedy here. But yeah. So we go to the first match, which is Private Terry Daniels. What the fuck, dude? Versus an exciting newcomer, Scott Casey. Scott Casey, who is not to be confused with Steve Casey on the other show, is in fact the Scott Casey who appears at Survivor Series 88 as a replacement for somebody who quit / was fired. But yeah. Notably, they call Scott Casey an exciting newcomer and do not call Terry Daniels an exciting newcomer. And I guess technically we'd seen Terry Daniels in this territory once before, like 3 months ago. But I would still call him a newcomer when he's only in his second match in the territory, wouldn't you? But I guess it's true. He's not an exciting newcomer, though. Scott Casey, though, man, he could be exciting.
It wasn't even Private Terry Daniels. He'd been stripped of his rank. Maybe he got demoted by General Eddie Gilbert.
Maybe Sergeant Slaughter called down from the Cobra Corps and stripped him of his ranking, stripped him of his colors. Now Scott Casey's a local successful young wrestler who's won a ton of local titles in the San Antonio area, we are told. And then we were told that next week is the return of the Freebirds. This is the boy who cried wolf, isn't it? The Freebirds are going to be coming next week. They're going to be Veer. That Veer is coming soon. The Freebirds are going to be here next week. Is the world-class version of Veer. I don't know how true this is, but I saw a picture somebody posted on Twitter of Veer that apparently, he apparently looks totally different. He's gotten completely out of wrestling and is gone to his homeland, which I think might actually be India. And he's just he's working to help people and all this shit. And if this is true, good for Veer, I guess.
Good for him.
Yeah. They announced here that World Class is going to Tel Aviv, Israel in August. Please don't make Mike Von Erich do that. I've seen the future. Nothing good comes out of that.
I'm in the future also.
Oh, God. Poor Mike Von Erich.
Yeah.
And speaking of stuff, they apparently realized that there's 3 Von Erichs and 3 Freebirds. So having a 10-man tag with the Freebirds and the Von Erichs forces them to leave somebody out. So the 10-man best 3 out of 5 falls match at the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions is now a 12-man best 3 out of 5 falls match. And Ric Flair has joined the heel team, which is Ric Flair, Gino Hernandez, Chris Adams, the One-Man Gang, Kamala, and Dr. Death Steve Williams.
That match is going to be so fucking long.
And especially since they all have other matches on the show too. We need to, or at least I need to go and look ahead a few episodes to figure out our schedule for that too. Have you talked to our special guest?
I haven't. I really should do that now. Okay.
Yes.
What is the date of the fucking?
It's the first week of May. I'll figure it out and send it to you.
Okay, I was looking at the May 4th episode is missing.
I think there wouldn't be the May 4th show. I think it would be the May 11th show because I think the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions is the 5th.
Yeah. So we're going to have to figure something out with there being, I don't know.
I'll take a look. We'll figure it out. We've done it before. So Scott is going to be here for most of the next 3 years. He does take a little bit of a break in '86, but he's pretty much here till the end of '87. So I hope you like him, Trey, because he's going to be here for a while. And Daniels is going to spend most of the next 2 TV shows here. And Casey won with a backbreaker.
Okay, the May 11th episode is only showing 36 minutes, so I wonder what is cut out of that.
Well, I'm sure if we do some YouTube searching, some person has put it all together as one show like they usually
I don't
do.
think so. I
Really?
have not seen any version of the World Class shows other than the WWE Network ones.
Admittedly, I have not done any searching yet. We'll figure it out. Hey, it's fine. We may just have a lovely guest on the show just to randomly talk about nothing at all. Any thoughts on Terry Daniels and an exciting newcomer, Scott Casey, who I almost said Steve Casey because that's what we do on this show.
This is pretty good. Scott Casey is actually kind of good.
Yes. Yep. So Chris Adams versus, and this was a typo that, hey, works for us, Hercules Hernandez with the lovely and vivacious Sunshine.
She is lovely.
Now, I had to laugh because David Manning Von Erich was the referee for the opener, and then he was the referee for this match too. And he had a pout on him when they showed him there in the background during the intros of this match. It's in his head, he's like, why am I not doing Kevin's match? Why am I doing this lowly mid-card match with Chris Adams and Hercules?
I like David. I like Arya's David Manning's pouty voice.
Well, I figure, Chris Adams would get a fair shake in this match. Turns out he didn't because Sunshine cheated Chris Adams was on the top rope, and Sunshine grabbed the ropes and shook it, and Chris Adams crotched himself. And by the way, that was not a disqualification. And so a local sob dealer ran into the ring and attacked Hercules Hernandez for the disqualification. Turns out it was Gino Hernandez.
A local sob dealer.
A maroon polo and chinos. But yeah. So Hercules wins by disqualification, even though Sunshine cheated first. By the way, did you notice what Bill Mercer said about Hercules during this match?
What did he say about Hercules during this match?
Hercules played a little football.
Oh.
That is never a good sign. And I guess we find out later that, it's not a good sign because Sunshine brings in Hercules, and Hercules, he cannot stand up for himself. He needs backup of his own. But we'll get to that promo with Sunshine. By the way, if you ever wonder why there's an ozone layer problem, why there's a hole in the ozone layer, Sunshine is getting in the ring, waving around a can of hairspray and spraying it into the air. Like, what the hell, Sunshine? If that hole in the ozone layer is directly above the sportatorium, we know whose fault it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, do you know how sticky hairspray is?
Yeah.
I bet everyone had to go back and take, if they weren't already taking a shower, they had to take a shower now.
That's kind of Hairspray's whole thing.
Yep. So Hercules is your winner via disqualification, even though he should have been disqualified in the first place. This was certainly a match. I wasn't enamored, but it also wasn't bad or anything.
No, it was totally adequate.
Yep. Kevin Von Erich versus It's a Girl, Thor! Did Thor jump in Carrie's trunk when Carrie returned to Dallas?
Must have.
How did? It's funny because, I guess he's Thor because he's a tall, blonde, good-looking guy. It's like he's not ripped. Like you hear someone named Thor, I'm expecting Chick Donovan levels of ripped and steroid addict kind of thing. And on the show was Kerry Von Erich, who's ripped to shreds, with Hercules Hernandez, who's ripped to shreds, with Thor, who's in good shape. He's muscular, he's defined, but he's not so roided out where it's like, oh man, this guy is a fucking Greek god. He's not even Chris Masters level of, defined. He's more like Chris Masters after he got off whatever he was on levels of defined. Which is still pretty good, but still,
Yeah.
And this is where I looked up and saw that we're going to have to watch this motherfucker for 7 more weeks. And he's going to be going back and forth. He's in Mid-South until the end of April, and he jumps back and forth the whole time, and he's in World Class until the end of May. And then Kevin puts Kevin in the Claw, and just as I'm writing, does he never win a fucking match with the Claw? What the hell was so special about this goddamn Claw? No one ever wins a match with the Claw. He then pinned Thor with the Claw.
Showed you, didn't he?
What was that?
Showed you, didn't he?
Yep, he did. I was having a battle of the grumpies here if I had to keep watching Thor wrestle. And especially what made me even angrier is that it's World Class. So it's I'm expecting the fucking match to go 10 minutes because it's World Class. And thankfully it did not go 10 minutes. It went, 5?
Yes. 5.5.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, hey, we got what was pretty close to a exceptionally well timed out World Class show this week. We didn't have any matches that far exceeded its welcome. And we had a promo in here too that we're about to get to. And Speaking of which, let's go to that promo with the lovely Sunshine.
Now, right here on World Class Championship Wrestling is the lovely Sunshine. Well, your man got attacked. You still came up with a win. I don't think you're really happy about all that.
Well, Bill, this is the second time, as everyone's seen, this is the second time that Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez have ganged up on Hercules. And I'm convinced that there's just too many people now, you know, that are causing trouble. And I'm convinced that, like I said before, I told you I had other people that wanted to come here and help me out. So I'm convinced now that I'm going to bring somebody in to watch Hercules back. Yes, because, you know, it keeps building and building. And no matter, you know, you can't take one man on.
You protected him pretty well.
Well, you know, that's not the way things should be.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're trying to fight here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring him in.
A newcomer.
That's exactly right. And when I do, everyone here, everyone in this auditorium is going to know who he is. They've seen him before. No, I can't tell you now, but I'll tell you what I am going to do, Bill.
What?
I'm going to get him on the phone tonight, and he'll be here tomorrow. And everybody's going to know who he is, and you're going to know who he is, and things are going to change because this can't go on any longer.
Good. What's in the spray can?
Bill.
See? I can't find out anything. Well, Sunshine with more exciting news. Another great person coming in. That young lady is going to be a real promoter of her own pretty soon. All right, we're going to.
Is Sunshine worse than Tim Horner?
No. She's prettier than Tim Horner.
She's definitely prettier than Tim Horner, but Tim Horner is a far better wrestler.
That's valid. I won't argue that point.
I don't fucking know. Like, these promos of Sunshine are driving me fucking crazy. And I feel like she can use a Tim Horner role where you get her in for 30 seconds and get her out. It's like, she's gonna bring in somebody. We all know who he is, but I can't tell you, but you all know who he is. And I'm gonna call him today. He'll be in tomorrow. And I bet he won't be here next week. I bet he won't be here for a fucking month. Even though she's gonna call him tonight and he'll be here tomorrow. But we all know who he is, but we can't know who he is.
She's bad about talking and saying nothing.
All this secrecy, by the way, really worked with fucking Hercules, since Hercules can't do a goddamn thing apparently either.
Yeah.
She's gonna have to bring in fucking half the territory, especially considering, as we've talked about, how everybody who's affiliated with her ends up leaving the fucking territory in like no time flat. Speaking of which, I didn't actually look. How long is Hercules here for? Because I have a feeling he's not here for very long. Because again, it's fucking why the hell did I end up in a thing of Hercules Graham, whoever the hell that is? I went Hercules Hernandez from Tampa, Florida. Not to be confused with the other Hercules from Tampa, Florida, apparently. Apparently Tampa, Florida brings out all the Herculeses.
You think we're going to get Hercules versus Thor?
Oh my God. That would be a fucking match.
That would be a Lulu.
So what day is this? April 13th?
Yeah.
Hercules is gone in one real life week.
Oh, wow.
Yes. He has a Sportatorium match that's taped on April 19th. So we have that to see, but yeah, he may, looking at the results, it looks like he has 2 more Sportatorium matches. So he could be here in theory for a month because they tape 2 shows a week. But yeah, he's gone in 6 days. Why can't Sunshine not keep a man?
I don't know. Maybe she sucks.
Let's see, because I know he does not go straight to the WWF right now. So what's going on here? He's going to Florida for a little bit.
Yeah,
he's going to be in. Yeah, he's going to be in Florida until November, and that's when he goes up north.
Yeah.
All right. So Hercules Hernandez, we hardly knew ye. All right. I'll be honest, if you picture somebody who's wrestling in Florida, I picture Hercules Hernandez. He just seems like the kind of guy who would enjoy wrestling in the state of Florida.
I think he'll fit right in.
Yep. Midnight Express with Jim Cornette versus the Fantastics for the American Tag Team titles. And if you don't remember, because this happened like a month ago, the American Tag Team titles are being held in abeyance. So pull out that Vince McMahon word of the day toilet paper, because we have a championship opportunity here. It's probably because they worked in the WWF for so long, but it pisses me off when Tom Hannafin and Matthew Raywalt talk about championship opportunities on Impact.
Yes, I hate that shit.
They've had that. I'm pretty sure they don't say that on Raw these days. Like, I'm pretty sure they actually say a championship match, because Hunter the Barbarian, there's a lot of things wrong with him, but one of the things he doesn't do is force the Vince McMahonisms on people. But
Excalibur, I love Excalibur. It drives me up the fucking wall when he says championship title match. That is redundant. Championship and title mean the same thing.
It's repetitive and redundant. It's repetitive and redundant.
The Department of Redundancy Department.
Yes. Oh yeah. I remember what I was going to say earlier, and I'll bring it up after this match because we'll be done world class here in 2 minutes. So the belts will rest on the table while Rick Hazard officiates this bout, because the NWA will not release the belts after the controversial conclusion of the prior matches. So we'll see here if we finally get a clear conclusion to this rivalry here.
So if the NWA won't release the belts, is there an NWA representative there possessing the belts?
I believe they're currently in possession of drunk Mark Lawrence, because he's the only person at the table we ever see.
I bet drunk Mark Lawrence was in possession of all kinds of things.
Call the police.
I feel bad because apparently he was like a pastor.
Yes. We should not, in all seriousness, I'm sure Mark Lawrence is a very nice human being. I've honestly never heard anybody say anything bad about Mark Lawrence. It's just that, especially with the way some of the video is for some of these shows, he sometimes sounds drunk.
Arya, I started on the podcast about 2 years ago next month. And the first two recurring things that I remember were George Weingroff's giant penis and drunk Mark Lawrence.
George Weingroff's penis. That takes us back.
Yeah.
Do we need to go back and rewatch some Mid-South and World Class from '83 so we can remember the days of George Weingroff's penis?
Can we watch the episode where Bill Rathke takes a shower?
Yes. Oh God! Can we watch the Mid-South show where our good friend Reeser Bowden says it's now time for the match with the big men and the little girls?
The little midget girl wrestlers?
Yes. Oh Lord. We may have to rewatch Mid-South once we finish watching Mid-South. So Trey, I hope you wrote this down. These guys are really good at professional wrestling.
These guys? The Midnight Express and the Fantastics. Those guys?
Yes. Yeah. They get the heat on Tommy Rogers. Condrey used the backbreaker on him, but he's no Scott Casey. So that did not win the match here for the Midnight Express. Rick Hazard got bumped somehow. Cornette got in, thwacked Fulton with a racket. That still didn't work. David Manning Von Erich ran down and pointed at Jim Cornette like he's the evil monkey who lives in Chris's closet. Nobody's ever compared David Manning Von Erich to the evil monkey.
They should. I don't know why they haven't.
Yes. And it's funny because, I don't know if you noticed him, but I noticed him immediately. Bill Mercer did not notice David Manning at ringside until Manning was actually in the ring. And whatever. Eaton and Fulton both went out over the top rope, which we did not see because the camera was focused on Jim Cornette being pointed at. Shenanigans broke out. The bell rang, and the Fantastics won by disqualification. And since it was a disqualification, the belts were still held up. And it's funny, like this was almost a TNA crowd in the fact that when the bell rang and the Fantastics were declared the winners, they went batshit crazy. Like, oh my God, the Fantastics won the titles. We love this. The Fantastics won the titles. And then announced the belts are still held up, and the crowd died. It was like they turned the audio of the crowd down at that moment when they said the Fantastic or the belts were still held up.
Yeah, that's fucking stupid.
Yes, it was. And it's like, this is very I'll take David Manning. David Von Erich. Who was it against? Jimmy Garvin when they kept holding up the Texas title that time.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it's the funny thing is, like, during this match for the American Tag Team titles, they told us that these two teams are going to wrestle each other at the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions. And they both want to go in as the champions. It's like they telegraphed their own finish of the match here.
Just why did this have to be a shitty not finish? If the goal is for the Fantastics to win the titles back later, you just have the midnight win them here, and then.
Or if the goal is for the Fantastics to win at the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions, just have a non-title match. Because they were very annoyingly specific. They said that they'd have a rematch for the titles at some point. They didn't have to say this was going to be that match.
Well, the Freebirds couldn't make it this week.
There you go. The Freebirds couldn't make it to this week's show, so we had to have this instead.
Yeah.
So that's World Class. Again, all the complaining we did, and it's like, again, World Class, saying on a roll is a strong word, but this year, actually, they've had more good episodes than bad episodes, we can say.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. Good job upping your game, World Class.
Yep. So I finally remember what I was trying to say earlier when I got tongue-tied. I came up with an idea, Trey, for product integration.
Okay.
So I've been watching a lot of AEW recently, as have you. We both watch a lot of AEW, and Dynasty was last night as we're taping this, and Will Ospreay had a shot at the Continental title, and he lost to Mox John Lee. However, Will Ospreay, I'm thinking that AEW needs to do better at getting sponsors and to integrate sponsors into their wrestling. And AEW is a very meta company. They like to do things outside the box and be a little off the wall. So I think what they could do is take Will Ospreay and rename him Will Oceanspray. And you could have Mikey Ruckus redo his theme song and have him scream, "Ocean Spray, Ocean Spray." And then every time you go to the grocery store to pick up your favorite jug of cran whatever juice, Will's face could be plastered right there on the front. To quote Don Callis, it would be tremendous.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you okay? Did you hit your head?
I came up with this on Friday, and I did not get a lot of sleep on Friday, so that might explain things.
Yeah, I think it does.
Also, cran grape is better than all your favorite juices. Anyone listening to this right now? So I told a lot of people this, and I purposely didn't put it anywhere that you could see it. And someone else had the idea that we could put Orange Cassidy and Juice Robinson as a team called Tropicana.
I mean, orange juice is right there.
Well, you don't want to make it too blatant, unlike Will Oceanspray. Do you remember frozen juice? Like, do you get those cans of frozen juice?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. Somebody's going to read the description of this week's episode and be like, did they say Will Oceanspray? Oh, God. Yeah. So, Hey, I figure because you said I'm. If you get mad at me, this is all on you for telling me you don't want to avoid knowing stuff. Does Darby win the title tomorrow night? And by tomorrow night, I mean Wednesday night in real life, but tomorrow night in podcast time.
I haven't really seen like the build. I'm still behind, but probably not.
Well, it's Darby in his hometown where he grew up and started wrestling in Everett, Washington. And he's wrestling MJF, who's been champion since December. And I don't know. It feels like, because it felt like when they announced the match originally with Darby and Andrade, there was going to be a double or nothing when Darby got his title shot. And then they did a promo on the pay-per-view where he said he wanted it on Dynamite this week. And it's like, well, you know, they could pull the trigger on him. And if you're going to,
if they do, Darby needs to beat MJF with a headlock takeover.
I think you and I are the only two people who understand that.
No, other people remember that.
Okay, when I say that's a long time ago, it was like 5 years ago, and a lot of shit has happened in 5 years.
That's true. That's true.
Honestly, I think he wins the title. You know, like unless I'm mistaken, they've only ever done one other world title change on Dynamite. Like it was the Winter is Coming match, if I remember. So it's not like they do this so regularly. You know.
No, they did. Like when Punk was injured and Moxley was the interim champion, they did the unification match.
Yeah, so they could do the Rocky III finish.
Yeah, and then they also did after Brawl Out that you calls because you were right there. They did the tournament with the final between Moxley and Danielson at Grand Slam, which it was a bigger Dynamite, but it was technically a Dynamite.
Well, I mean, technically, if you want to say a bigger Dynamite, Winter is Coming was a bigger Dynamite.
Yeah, okay, so they both count.
I guess it. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Moxley actually won the title from Punk because I mean, you can always make your arguments of whether or not he really was the champion, but he was the interim champion. But that whole thing was really fucking stupid anyway. Like even ignoring everything going on with Punk at the time and everything that happened afterwards. It was really fucking stupid, in my opinion, to do that match on free TV 2 weeks before the pay-per-view. And then the week before, it's like, oh, yeah, you know how Punk lost him in like 90 seconds? We're going to do a rematch this Sunday on pay-per-view.
You're not going to like my take on this.
Okay. Do you think Moxley should have won a Brawl Out?
No, I think that Moxley had a good idea and Punk didn't get it, so his heart wasn't in it.
I think I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think I think it could have been done better. I mean, I guess I understand why they didn't do it on the pay-per-view because like you want to have a 3-minute main event world title match on the pay-per-view. Like that kind of thing, especially since when you looked at that pay-per-view, from what I remember, like it was not a deep card. Like there wasn't like you could say, oh, you could have done Moxley and Punk like not in the main event spot, even though TK likes to put the world title in the main event. It wasn't like a match you go, okay, instead you could put this match in the main event instead. There really wasn't that match. I think the second biggest match was Jericho and Danielson, and that was before Jericho was the ROH champion. They couldn't even do that.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't have done the 3-minute match at the pay-per-view. They could. Moxley's idea to do the Rocky III thing was a good idea. Punk just didn't get it, and like.
But part of why the Rocky
didn't work, the way that they tried to set up the match didn't work.
part of what made it a Rocky 3 thing was in Rocky 3, Clubber Lang blitzed Rocky in the first match.
Yes, exactly.
So the first match, if you're going to do a Rocky 3 thing, that's what you'd have to do is Moxley blitzing Punk. But I also think like they didn't have the time to do the story. I'm not going to say they just didn't. They decided to skip half the story because Punk was injured and out for 3 months. But it's like they didn't have the time to properly do that story. Like I didn't until Moxley. I think it was Moxley did that. Maybe it was Punk who just put it up on Instagram or whatever. But like whatever it was, it's like I didn't even realize that's what it's supposed to be until like years later when Punk did that. Or I guess it was Punk. He put it on his Instagram. But it's like it was not. They didn't have the time to really flesh out a Rocky 3 story. And like I think if Brawl Out wasn't in Chicago, they would have just held it off until Full Gear, and that would have given you enough time to let it play out. But the show was in Chicago, and I don't want to say they rushed Punk back because I don't know. I'm not his doctor, but I think it was very important to have Punk on that show in Chicago. And well, we have this idea, and we're going to do it. God damn it!
One of my favorite Moxley promo lines ever was after that match on Dynamite because it was the first match on the show, right? And then so like a little bit.
It was the 1 hour match.
It was a 1 hour. Okay, it wasn't at the end of the show. And then so they did the 3-minute match, and then like a few minutes later, they cut to Moxley backstage. He goes, "Oh, was that not what was supposed to happen?"
I liked the way, like, as in my opinion, as dumb as it was that they immediately did the rematch a week and a half later. I like the idea that how they got to that match. That Moxley came out, he had the open contract, and like, I'm just gonna put it in the ring. Whoever wants to come get a title match, come do it. And that's when Ace Steel came out and stole the contract. And then they did that whole Ace Steel. Yeah.
My other favorite Moxley line. Do you remember when he had the match with Hangman Page and Hangman got the concussion?
No, I'll be honest. Like, and I'm sure you'll tell me, oh, they only wrestled once, but like for some reason, I'm like merging like 30 matches together. So
okay.
I'm not.
I think this must have been late 2022 because this was during that last the title reign when Moxley won the title from Bryan before he lost it to MJF. It was on Dynamite. It was the first time they ever had a match, I think. And they did a referee stop because Moxley hit him with a lariat and gave him a concussion. And the next week or so...
I vaguely remember that because with you saying that, I vaguely remember that now.
I think it was the next week, Moxley had a promo, and he goes, "What did he think I was trying to do with that clothesline? Comb his hair?"
You tell me that I remember too much stuff about TNA. I think sometimes you remember too much stuff about AEW, but we all have our. Do you hear that?
No, it wasn't.
You don't hear that coming through my microphone?
I don't.
Okay, so my microphone does a good job of blocking out outside noise, I guess. There's some dipshit on a shitty little motorbike driving down the street, and that thing is backfiring all to hell. And I wouldn't care as much, except my car is right there, and I'm hoping he doesn't somehow fuck it up or hit it or something.
There's nothing worse than a dipshit on a shitty little motorbike.
Yep. Okay. I feel like there's no way that I can say this like without coming across as a bitchy Karen who's trying to stop everyone from having fun and who also needs to be sued 100 ways to sideways. Motherfuckers, can you like keep an eye out on the fucking cars on the fucking road if you're not in a car? Like, I get pedestrians have the right of way, but the number of fucking times people cross the street without even looking. Like, I get there's somebody out there listening to this going, oh, they just want to get your insurance money. I'm like, I've been in a car accident, and spoiler, the money I got for being hit by a car, well, I was in a car, by the way, so it wasn't quite, being hit by a car while walking down the street. The money I got was not enough to offset how much fucking pain I was in for a month afterwards. So if you're out there thinking, oh man, that guy just wants to get hit by a car so he can get some money, I'm like, there's fucking better ways to get some money. But also, like, I was driving somewhere the other day, and this guy on a bike, and I know you're not supposed to ride a bike on a sidewalk, and I'm not saying he should have been doing that. And I get there was cars parked, but he needed to be riding his bike a little closer to the fucking car on the side there. It was like, I had to swerve into the next lane to not hit this motherfucker. And it's not like, oh, he's driving, because you're supposed to be riding your bike in the same direction as traffic. He was in my lane riding towards me. And if I would hit him, whose fault would it have been? The dipshit riding his bike in the middle of the street, or me driving 25 miles per hour?
Well, that's quite a rant to end the show on.
Yeah, and it's like, I get it, but you got to have a fucking brain here. It's like, I get pedestrians have the right of way, but you have to remember, I'm in a fucking big-ass car going 20 to 25 miles per hour. I need time to stop my car.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So that's going to do it for this week. Trey's got some hot dogs to eat tomorrow, so we're going to be recording Smoky Mountain on Wednesday, like we've been recently, but this is now more of an official doing it Wednesday. So I hope you have fun at your hot dog game tomorrow.
At the hot dog game, yeah, that's where I'm going.
Do you even know who the Astros are playing tomorrow?
The Rockies.
Okay, nice. Well, I expect a full report. I expect you to at least tell us the score on the show on Thursday.
I will try.
And let's hear. We'll ask this right now. What do you think is going to be more? The number of total runs scored in the game or the number of hot dogs that you have?
What's the typical number of runs in a game?
It's hard to say because, like, some days there'll be games where, like, there's a shit ton of runs scored, and the very next day, the same two teams, it's 1-0. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But, like, let's say 5 runs total. Let's say there may be 5 runs scored total in the game. Do you think you're going to have more or less hot dogs than that?
I feel like I'm 3 to 5 hot dogs, so I'll err on the side of caution and say under.
Okay. Well, so we'll see here. So Astros versus Rockies tonight, as you're all listening to this. Check it out and try to find Trey in the stands, because I'm sure they'll focus on random people in the stands eating hot dogs.
I'll be the fat guy eating hot dogs with a bunch of blind people.
I wonder, every time Trey ever mentions blind people and I try to get more information, he yells at me for it. So,
not for trying to get information. You presume things that are ableist sometimes.
It's unintentional ableism because, like, what level of blind are we talking? Like, technically, you can be legally blind but still be able to see. You just aren't allowed to drive. You aren't allowed to do things like that. That's kind of what I'm asking is, like, what level are we talking about? Like, I mean, I don't know your wife. I don't know the people in your life. I don't know, like, just how blind is blind,
Everybody's blindness is equally valid.
Oh my God. See, this is why how we end up with these conversations. So that's going to do it for this week. Hope you'll enjoy the show. Watch some wrestling, watch some baseball, do whatever you like. And we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.